Hi, this is Darlene. If you're new here, that's my name, Darlene's Garden Channel. I talk mostly about gardening and cooking and various other things. But what I'd like to do today is something a little different. And I've done this before, but it's been a while. I belong to a Toastmaster club, and one of the things we do in Toastmasters is give speeches. I'm scheduled to give a speech at my club this coming week. And I thought I need to practice. So if it's okay, I'm going to practice on you guys. My speech is supposed to be between 18 to 22 minutes long. And according to the number of words in my document that I put together, I should be within that time frame. So we'll see what happens here. So let me go ahead and start right now. Greetings. Every gardener has a sense of humor. It's a requirement for the hobby or the job. How else can we survive all the missteps and surprises? Here are some garden observations that all gardeners can probably identify with. A big thing nowadays is sustainability. And I'm embarrassed to admit that I could do more. It isn't like we don't make the attempt to be mindful of our use and actions on this the little blue planet of ours. It's sad, but true. Hard work doesn't hurt anybody. But I don't want to take any chances. I only work as hard as I'm able to, or as I feel like, and not nearly as hard as I should. I used to get down on my knees and plant things in the ground. Knees? What is the definition of knees anyway? A knee is a device for finding rocks in your garden. This year, I resorted to container raised bed planting. We got 18-gallon totes from Walmart and filled them with potting soil and compost and grew a garden. But full disclosure, we could do better. I don't want to beat myself up too badly. We do compost. In the fall, my husband, as much as he hates it, collects our fallen leaves and puts them on our compost pile. Now, do we use the compost from the pile? Well, as many of you know, I injured my legs a little over a year ago. And before I injured my legs, I actually did use quite a bit of the compost from the pile. But for over a year now, it just sits there. And this year, we even have a pumpkin growing out of it. And while this might seem like a check in the environmentally correct box, in reality, it hardly even puts a dent in what we should or could be doing. That's not really sustainable. Speaking of sustainable gardening practices, do we save water? Well, I don't collect rainwater, which really would be a great idea whenever it rains. We're fairly dry here, but it does rain occasionally. However, we do use overhead irrigation for our plants and veggies in our gardens. I know drip irrigation will be better, but we don't have drip irrigation, we have overhead. And we water early in the morning or late in the evening, before the birds are up, and tip the scales in the direction of, we do tip the scales in the direction of more native versus non-native, as well as drought-tolerant plants. And we do indeed plant a vegetable garden, which is way better than driving to the store to get produce, but only when you actually maintain it and get those vegetables from your garden. In my defense, my husband thinks vegetable is a 4-letter word, and there is no physical way I can eat or preserve all the produce that we wish we had produced. Knowledge, you know, is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. I did plant a few things like tomatoes and basil and a few peppers and a couple of pretty pots full of cucumbers, which gave me lots of blooms, but exactly one cucumber. Sustainably, we never use chemical pesticides, herbicides, or the like. And I don't actually mind weeding. Yeah, I have a screw loose, I know. I was asked, what do you do when you see a weed? I replied, I pull it out. And then the person asked me, what if it's too big to pull out? And I replied, then I get my husband to do it. When weeding, the best way is to make sure that you are removing a weed and not a valuable plant, is to pull on it. If it comes out of the ground easily, it's a valuable plant. We attempt to keep our plants healthy by incorporating plenty of organic matter at planting, space our plants, select disease-resistant varieties when they're available, and think about mulching to retain moisture and keep the roots cool. Thinking about it is a bit different than actually doing it, however. We almost exclusively, with the exception of vegetables, try to plant perennials. For one thing, they are more economical than annuals and continue to thrive year after year. Even those perennials have suffered this last year and this year because of the lack of maintaining any semblance of maintenance. Our choices reflect our interest in using native plants, often drought-tolerant ones, while incorporating plants that encourage pollinators. Plus, we do harvest seeds from many of them or divide them to create more plants. Once I'm able to get in the garden in a proper way, that will happen more. Are we getting closer to a sustainable garden? The definition of sustainable is avoidance of the depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance. I'm going to say no. A little bit of accountability does go a long way, even when you have a long way to go. But as the saying goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again. So too shall we continue to strive towards a more sustainable landscape. Oh, and by the way, you shouldn't tell a secret when you're in your garden, because potatoes have eyes and the corn has ears. As the plants grow each season, they use up the existing soil nutrients and organic matter. The microorganisms and beneficial insects are left hungry, as is the plant. To that end, most people use a supplemental fertilizer of some sort. I cannot be relied on to fertilize my plants on a regular basis. Translation, I'm lazy and forgetful. This means I've been known to juice up my soil at the end of the growing season, so it's all ready for spring growth and planting. Juicing up the soil, well, there's numerous ways to invigorate the soil, such as planting cover crops, adding aged animal manure, mulching at the soil surface, adding compost, and rotating crops. With the exception of planting cover crops, I've used all of the above methods to improve my soil. This year, I set a schedule and a timer on my phone to fertilize my garden weekly. That lasted for about a month, about maybe 6 weeks. Then I quit doing it. I would have gotten more produce if I had stuck to my schedule. Gardening is often touted as a good hobby for staying physically active. It burns calories and builds strength and flexibility as you lift, carry, squat, and of course, pull persistent weed after weed. This is all true, but for me, the primary benefit of gardening is what it does for my mental health. Research has proven what many people and cultures have long known. Being outside and working with plants, being in nature and around green, growing things is good for mental health. Simply being where plants grow is enough to improve the mood, lower depression, reduce stress and anxiety, and increase relaxation and resilience during difficult times. In an increasingly technological world, this is more important than ever. I love the outdoors, but even for me, it's easy to get lost in streaming movies and TV shows, scrolling through social media, and basically staying indoors, glued to a screen. Gardening is a reminder that I need to be outside or with my plants growing daily. During the non-summer months, I have created a space in our spare bedroom to grow an indoor garden. Last winter, I had miniature tomatoes and some red peppers and lots of lettuce and basil growing in the grow room. And I started all of the starts that I put out into the garden by planting the seeds in my grow room, except for the broccoli and petunias. I haven't had good luck starting those, so I bought those at the garden center. Since health-wise I'm not as sharp as I used to be, this small amount of gardening has kept me from getting depressed, especially with all the health problems that I've had. But no matter how hard you work to get a garden to look a certain way, you cannot control every aspect of the outcome. Things will go wrong. A plant that should have been perfect fails to thrive. Pests return despite your best efforts. My garden has forced me to accept that I have to adapt my plans and sometimes cope with things the way they are. It doesn't mean giving up or not working toward goals, but there are limits to what anyone can accomplish or control. Working in the garden has been a perfect lesson in acceptance, which ultimately leads to more happiness. Gardening for health is a great goal. For anyone new to it, just dive in and try it. You don't have to do it well at first, and you likely won't. Enjoy the process, embrace the outdoors or the indoor garden if that's what you've got, and accept your limitations. When the world wearies and society fails to satisfy, there is always the garden. When gardeners garden, it is not just the plants that grow, it is the gardeners themselves. I'll close today with a story that I heard. It's about a mom who had several boys and several girls and a boy, a couple boys actually. The mom loved to get her kids out in the garden to help and teach them valuable lessons about life and about gardening. One day they went fishing, and all of the remains of the fish, the guts, the head, the bones, etc., she took the kids out, and they were going to bury them in the garden. She wanted to teach the kids about natural fertilizers. The girls wanted no part of it. Ew, they said. The fish eyes were staring at them. But the boys, they were all into it. So they buried the fish parts and went inside to relax. Mom went and took a shower. When she was getting out of the shower, the girls were shrieking and totally winging out, "Mom!" they cried. Mom got a towel around her, got out to where the kids were. "What's wrong?" the mom asked. "Our fish are gone," they yelled. Sure enough, Mom went over to the aquarium where they had all their beautiful little goldfish and other kinds of aquarium fish. They were gone, all of them. One of the boys finally confessed. He said, "Mom, I took them all to the garden." Oops, a lesson learned too well. Now, how to teach the boy what he had done wrong. Too much of a good thing is not always good. Well, the lesson for today: grow a plant. It will make you happy, but don't bury your goldfish in the garden. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was kind of fun to present, and I will be presenting it again at my Toastmaster meeting. If you enjoyed it, make sure you do a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I invite you to do that. And my channel grows when you share my videos with other people on your social networks. And I will see you on my next video, which I don't know when it's going to be or what it's going to be about. It will be a surprise. But until then, may God's love and blessings surround you. This is Darlene saying bye for now.